What's up, Herbalists? This is Mason, and you're listening to HerbRally. Today's episode is another edition of the Herbalist Hour, and this time I'm joined by herbalist and apitherapist Bella Donna. So during this chat, we talk about how she got into herbalism and beekeeping, small steps to living a healthier life, herbal honey infusions, bee pollen and other bee products, and a ton more. Also, during the episode, Bella Donna was kind enough to send me a gift box with all sorts of the products that they create, and I do a real-time unboxing video. So this was awesome. If you want to check out the video version, I will leave a link in the podcast show notes. But yeah, Bella Donna is just an awesome and amazing person, and I really enjoyed chatting it up with her for over an hour, and I know you're going to love this episode. So also, before we get into the show, I'd like to thank our HerbRally Schoolhouse members. Thank you so much for your support. If you'd like to learn more about the HerbRally Schoolhouse, simply head to herbrally.com/schoolhouse, and you can use coupon code podcast at checkout to get your first 30 days for free. Then it's only $10 a month after that. Let's see, and just scrolling through some of the classes inside of the HerbRally Schoolhouse, we got Nourishing the Nervous System with Dana Aronson, Advice for Running a Clinical Practice with Kelsey Barrett. We got a 5-part Permaculture for Herbalists series taught by Denise Cusack that's over 2 hours long. Got a plant walk with Kyle Denton where he covers individual plants for about a half hour with Angelica, St. John's wort, bee balm, and yarrow, plus around 60 classes. So yeah, lots of incredible content with amazing herbalists from all over the community. One more time, learn more about the HerbRally Schoolhouse at herbrally.com/schoolhouse. And don't forget to use coupon code podcast at checkout to get your first 30 days for free. Last but not least, if you've been enjoying the show, would you mind leaving us a podcast review in your podcast player of choice, whether that's Apple Podcast, Spotify, etc. A 5-star ranking would be amazing. We'd really appreciate it. Plus some sort of written review would be even better. So yeah, it really helps grow the show, bring more awareness to it, and really just love reading the reviews. So thanks so much, and that's going to do it for me today. Enjoy today's episode with my good friend Bella Donna.
Welcome to the Herbalist Hour. This is where community gather, merging the power of people and the flowers, the sweet and the bitter to the salty, the sour. Umami, it's time for the Herbalist Hour.
Welcome back to the Herbalist Hour. Today, I'm incredibly excited to have on my longtime email pen pal. She's an apitherapist and an herbalist. Let's welcome Bella Donna to the Herbalist Hour.
Thank you, Mason.
Yeah, this is going to be great to get to know you a little bit more. So let's go way back to the beginning. What was a young Bella Donna like?
Oh, the beginning. It goes way, way back.
Yeah.
I told you how old I was. I was a child, and my grandfather used to garden, and I would be under his feet gardening, and he would pull stuff and tell me stuff. And I would go home. This was my great grandfather. I would go home and try to just dig a little hole, or he'd show me planted strawberries, and I would find wild strawberries. So I'd try to eat them and see if I would die. And my friends and my dad's like, don't do that, don't do that. And I've always just been attracted to herbs since I was small. When I was a teenager, my friends are eating pizza and garbage chips and stuff. I'm mixing my honey with my green teas that I pick something out in the yard with. So I believe I came into the world as an herbalist. I'm still an herbalist. I will die an herbalist. And you
Amen.
mentioned earlier we're chatting like something hasn't changed with what I said whenever. And if I said it 10 years ago or 40 years ago, it probably hasn't changed.
Well, we're going to get more into this, but one of your goals in life is to inspire folks to infuse herbs into honey. So I'm really excited to learn more about that. But how did you get into beekeeping and apitherapy?
Well, in my younger years, when I had kids early in my 20s, and when they were sick, didn't feel good, just for health, I'd read something about health. And I remember my daughter was a baby, and I read something about bee pollen for immune support. And then do not feed babies bee pollen or honey. And I would give my babies a little bit of that. And that was my first thought, other than going to the doctors, or relatives would come over and say, well, here, give them this, or give them a Benadryl, or give them this. I'm like, what are you talking about? like get that stuff away from me. So that's just what I've always done. And I forgot the question. What was the
well,
question?
I was just curious
I got so excited.
Yeah, well, you love talking about bees. I'm just kind of
Oh, my
curious
bees.
your early
Yeah, so
days, like
that's how
getting into it. Yeah.
I got into beekeeping and honey, and then later on, I was a Oriental bodywork therapist, and I would recommend bee products and do bee mask with or honey mask with people, or people would say they had allergies, and I would say, well, did you try this? Did you try that? And then there was one very special day. I was taking a walk. I think we're in Sedona, Arizona, with my very, very best friend, who's still my very, very best friend. And I was telling her, I says, I'm trying to find, I recommend honey and all these bee products, and I'm having trouble finding good stuff. Like I was started asking people, do you use chemicals? Where are they at? And they would tell me, I'm like, well, aren't there like power lines, and don't they spray trees there? And I was having problems finding good honey. So my friend, we're just walking along, and she goes, why don't you just get bees
Yeah.
and get your own? I'm like, oh yeah, like you just like, where do you get bees? And she says, my uncle has bees. I bet you he'll get you some. So she connected us, and he was so excited that I really wanted to learn and how I was using them. So he taught me and coached me for a couple few years. And I was in Arizona when the Africanized bees started coming in. So then I had to learn how to take care of Africanized bees, and I was capturing them and kind of learning as I went. And while the Africanized bees were coming through Arizona, the older beekeepers didn't want to beekeep, and the younger beekeepers didn't want to beekeep. So there was a span 15, 20 years ago where there weren't too many beekeepers in Arizona anywhere. So I was going to California, going to New Mexico, and learning with other beekeepers and taking beekeeping classes. And I was already doing apitherapy without knowing what I was doing, but having my own bees, I was able to incorporate that. So my life with the beekeeping and the herbs evolved. And then I've just always like mixed herbs and honey, thinking in my head, like if this is good for you and this is good for you, let's just put them together.
Absolutely. Where did you learn herbalism? Who'd you study with?
I took courses okay, this is how old I am again. When I was younger, and again, my kids were younger, so in my early 20s, I was learning and using herbs, and I wanted to take a course. And there was one or two herb magazines at the time, like physical magazines. There was no internet. And in one of the magazines, I found an herb magazine. So I got the herb magazine, and then in it there was Jeannie Rose
Oh yeah, Jeannie Rose, for sure. I've got one of her
te-
books.
teaching classes. So I ordered her program, and she would send you a few lessons on paper, and some were like copies of newspaper articles, some were handwritten, some were recipes copied, and you would do whatever, excuse me, the assignment was and send it back. So that program took me a couple few years to complete that. And then from that, then getting more information. If there was a book that was listed in anything, then I would buy that book. And I just evolved. I just saw your webinar. This is that what you call it? A webinar
Yeah, we
that you
we had one with Abby for foraging. Is that the one you're referring to?
Yes.
Yeah.
And as soon as she mentioned a book, I'm like, I don't have that book. I got to get that book. But that was a fabulous program.
And they're all beautifully stacked behind you right now. You held on to them,
Yes,
or at least some
I
of them.
got rid of a lot when I moved, but I've held on to the ones that they were like always referenced to me.
When I was reading some of your bio, I want to say there was mention of Rosemary Gladstar. Did you study with her or
Yes.
anything?
Yeah, I did. I didn't finish the
Okay.
program to get certified with her, but I was familiar with her back in the day, I think when nobody else was.
Okay, yeah. Way before Rosemary was cool.
Yeah.
She's always been pretty cool. Awesome. Well, pre-call, you were emailing me about this competition that you entered. And I was hoping you could kind of tell us a little bit about the competition. This is in regards to your herbal infused honey. And I was just kind of, with that prompt, could you kind of let us know about that?
Yeah, there's a program called the Good Foods. I'm gonna see if I can pop it open here.
No worries. And while you do that, we do have
It's
an
just
HerbRally Schoolhouse member joining us. I want to say hi to Leiko Leilani. So thank you for joining us. Feel free to leave questions in the Q&A segment if you have any questions for Bella Donna. But otherwise, yeah, go ahead, Bella Donna.
It's just called the Good Foods program. So it's a
Gotcha.
program of artesian um, food producers and providers. And it started, I think, in 2013 or 14, and I entered it in 2015. And there was a real small, like it was just starting, and they were like writing to people and saying, well, do you have any ideas? And we want to get this going. And so I saw it like at the onset and entered, and I entered just like randomly, well, I'll help support this group
Yeah.
with I had, and I still have many different mints that I'm growing, and I infuse them into honey. And when I had somebody over for tea, or somebody tried it, or my kids' friends, like everybody that tried that honey, they're like, man, is this good? What is this? So that's the honey I sent in 215. And I can't remember, but there were maybe 30 to 50 honeys, like not a whole lot. So the competition wasn't that great. And I came in as a finalist, and I think then they had three finalists. So I was like all excited, like it really is good, and I need to trust myself and my people that are tasting it. But I didn't win. It wasn't the grand winner. But since then, when I've been in little artesian shops, which is the only place I try to go, or farmers markets, I'll see different places, good food awards.
Hmm.
So it's getting more national recognition. And then the last few years I haven't entered. And then this year it was like I came up with the honey, and then I think I got that email, and I'm like, oh, I'll just send this in. So it's artesian, and they want people to grow their own, do their own. Like I couldn't do one of my honeys that is just as good, and I think I might have sent it to you. It's called a blue pea butterfly plant, and
Oh,
it doesn't grow here in the States. But when I made that infusion, that was good. But I'm like, so I couldn't enter that. But the day that I got the information to enter, I had just picked strawberries in my yard, and I had like strawberries coming out my ears. I was freezing, I was drying, I was eating. Like I'm like, I don't know if I can eat any more strawberries this year. That's how many I had. So I had dried some, and then I harvested rose petals
hmm.
and was also drying them. And then I ground the dried rose petals that had a flavor and a nice smell, and some were wild, and some were some fancy kind that were supposed to have a flavor and a scent to them. And I grinded those two, and I put them in honey, and and then I put my honey had some comb in it. So it was
Hmm.
honeycomb. So real fresh honey right from the hive, with the fresh strawberries, with the fresh picked roses. And I ground the roses up and ground the strawberries a little bit, and then I put them, when I do infusions, I put them together, and I have this slow dough blender. But for years I've been hand blending, and then I let it sit, and then I hand blend, and then I let it sit, like all day long I can do that. So I did that honey, and then I jarred a few jars. I think this might be one here, and the
Hmm.
color just comes out real pretty. And then the comb kind of stayed at the top, and the strawberries were big enough that they were in there, and it was just so pretty, and it was so flavorful. So I sent that in probably last October, November, kind of forgot about it. And in January, I got a notice that it came in the finalist. And this year, there's different groups in this Good Foods program. There's like olives and olive oil and
Hmm.
jams and jellies and beers. They don't have tea yet. Every time I talk to them, I'm like, "Do you have your tea section yet?" Because I'm gonna
Huh.
send some teas in. Um, but the honeys, I think there were 300 and something submissions, and then they had seven finalists this year, and I got a notification that I came in the finalist. And I was thinking, for the steep competition that it was, like I was just so excited when I got the email. I remember I just sat here in shock a little bit, going, "Wow, that's really impressive." I was impressed by my last minute concoction.
Yeah, I've never had a strawberries in an infused honey. That sounds divine. Did you come up with some clever name for it or anything?
No, I just call it I think the name had to be what was in it.
Oh,
And you
gotcha.
had to
Okay.
and I don't think it was even based just on the flavor. There were a lot of questions, like, did you grow this? How long have you been
Hmm.
growing this? Why did you grow this? Why are you doing this? What are the benefits? So there was a lot involved, and people had to be chemical free. That was another one. So
Hmm.
that would have left a lot of people out.
Yeah.
You had to use everything on your own property, like as long as it's most possibly available. So the blue tea, I could have maybe justified that it was my own honey, but I didn't
Yeah.
use the blue tea butterfly plant or powder. But I did get seeds, and I am going to grow them for next year. So the competition is pretty steep in that way.
I guess you're kind of going on the honor system at that point, as far as like, did you grow it yourself?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and they had people that were writing like, how do we even know that this isn't pesticide free? And there
Right.
was discussion with anything, with the beer making, with the cheese making, and they said for them to have the equipment like to test everything, it's just astronomical. And with the honey, I've had my honey pollen tested to make when I buy from other people. I was having it tested to make sure it wasn't the pollen wasn't filtered out, and what kind of pollen, and it wasn't the pollen that they told me. So if I bought honey from a small beekeeper in Florida and he said this is orange honey, then I had it tested to see does it have orange pollen in it. But
Yeah.
for me to test for chemicals or for sugar, because a lot of beekeepers will feed sugar, so as they have a high sugar content versus a honey content, those the equipment for those tests it's extreme, and the tests are like hundreds and thousands of dollars each. So they've talked about that, what you mentioned, but I don't know how practical that would be, especially with the thousands of entries that they're getting now.
Yeah. That seems
Unless,
totally impractical.
yeah, unless they made us somehow prove, but
Huh,
that would cut down on their applicants, I'm sure.
for sure. Just a quick break from the show to let you know about our school listings on HerbRally. So just like events, we also organize all the different herb schools throughout the United States, so you could find a herb school in your neck of the woods. At least that's the goal. So if you'd like to learn more and check out all the different schools, you could go to herbrally.com/schools. And if you're listening to this and you have an herb school and you don't see it listed on there, just fill out the form on that page. You could get a hold of me and I'll be sure to get it listed. So, but yeah, if you're looking for an herbalism school in your neck of the woods, just go to herbrally.com/schools and hopefully you can find something happening in your area. All right. Thanks for listening and back to the show. Okay, well, thank you for sharing about the rose strawberry honey. Let's jump into some more of your products now. Bella Donna, dear listener, was kind enough to send me a box full of her goodies, and as some of you may know, sometimes on the YouTube channel we do these unboxing videos. So we're going to kind of do something like that right now. I'm going to open up the package and we're going to kind of go through what Belladonna sent me, and then maybe Belladonna could tell us, like, say, some of the benefits or just more about the product and stuff like that. So I don't know what's in here yet, except for you alluded to one of the products earlier. So let's dig in and find out what we got here. And I had my daughter rewrap it for me, so I wasn't going through a bunch of bubble wrap and stuff like that. But here we go. Okay. Ooh, this looks gorgeous. Okay. So this is a healthy morning boost. I'll hold it up there for the
Oh,
YouTube viewers.
good for you. You know what? I was looking for that for myself today and I must have sold it off.
You know what? I wish I had a spoon with me. I should probably be trying this stuff, but yeah, why don't you tell us about the healthy morning boost, honey?
Can you read what's in it? Because I don't have any here to read
Oh,
it
of
and I don't.
course. Yeah, this is a really interesting. I like it. So it's pure honey, cacao, ground coconut flakes, maca root, cinnamon, collagen powder, and ginger. And you could add this to coffee, tea, or warm water for a comforting, healthy drink. Can also be eaten straight.
So it's all coming back to me now. So a couple months ago, I'm involved in an international apitherapy program. And there's doctors, researchers, scientists from all over the world that are in the program, and we're on a WhatsApp group. And a couple of were mentioning like when they mix certain things, they're warming for winter. And I think a couple clients of mine mentioned that they've been tested recently and they need collagen.
Mm.
And the ideas of something for winter, and I'm always trying to tell people like whatever you're taking now, whatever's helping, herbs, honey, supplements, whatever, it has its seasons and its times. And like right now there are things like this, like ginger we want to warm us, cinnamon we want to warm us. um the cacao is good in the winter time, and um for our energy, and as a warmer to our blood and our system. So I put a bunch of those together. I think I made a gallon of it and I jarred it up, and then I posted to some of my clients. I was sending out other orders. Do they want it? And like everybody says yes. And then all of my honey was gone. So I think I sent you the jar that I saved one for me. I think that's it.
Well, lucky me. I mean, I just tried it a couple times, and it is phenomenal. Like that is such a great flavor. As you mentioned, you could just consume it straight, and I might
Yeah,
be
yeah,
doing
you
that.
can.
Yeah, that is incredible. Do you want me to move on to the next one?
Yes, yeah.
Cool.
So that was a little thing of like every so often I'll come up with some different infusion, and then if I get a good response from it, I'll keep making it. Some people will say to me a year later, "Would you make me some of that honey that you gave me last December?" And I don't know what I made all the time, but if it's something like that, I'll probably continue to make that.
Yeah, I would recommend making that. I guess let's drop your website. Let me see if I can go off memory. BeeHealthy.biz.
Yes,
Cool.
be healthy.
BEE, yeah, BEE,
Yeah.
BeeHealthy.biz, and I'll leave a link to that in the podcast show notes in the YouTube description. So I'm really excited at the next thing I opened up. Uh, this is the rose strawberry honeycomb blend uh, that you were just telling us about, I believe. So this is exactly what it says it is: pure organic, small batch, handcrafted rose strawberry honeycomb blend. So I don't know if you want to talk more about that, but I'm definitely going to give it a try right now.
Yeah, and does it have like little layers to it when you're looking at it, or is it totally blended?
It's pretty blended.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I sent you one of the jars when I made that blend. I just probably made a gallon of it, and I've
Mm,
sold a bunch and I sent them a bunch. So that's from that original batch that I made. If I make it today, it might be a little bit different. It might have different honey base. Like if I harvest my honey in September or October or April, the honey is going to be a little bit different.
mm.
So every single batch is going to be different. And then if I use different roses, or I might use different amounts to get a brighter color, or I might have red and yellow rose petals one time and just red the next. So every batch is going to be different. So, but you got the original batch that won in the finalist.
Yeah, that is phenomenal. Can't wait to consume more of that. Oops.
Yeah, and
My,
another reason that I made that one is I found a couple years ago when the whole COVID thing started, I was having problems getting vitamin C, and I use
mm,
powdered vitamin C in different supplements and um, capsules that I make for people or recommend people. And I started thinking, like, what if we can't get vitamin C, like, which I couldn't for
right.
a time period. So I started adding rose petals or ground rose hips and strawberries and and berries into my honeys for the vitamin C. And then as a holistic healthcare practitioner, I was seeing that a lot of people were low when I tested them. A lot of people were real low. A lot of people, like most people, were real low in vitamin C during the winter time. So I just started saying I'm just going to add a little bit of rose hips to like anything I make to help everybody get their vitamin C levels up. So that was another reason that I thought that combo would be real good for people.
Are you getting the rose hips from your property?
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah. And I'm planting more roses this year to get more.
Can you tell us a little bit about the processing of rose hips? I've actually never done this before, but I know that there's like little tiny hairs on the inside. I don't know if there's like some sort of difficulty when if you could talk a little bit about the process, that'd be great.
Well, I grow different kinds of roses, and some are wild roses. If I'm out someplace and I
Gotcha.
find wild roses and I pick them, so I'll have tiny rose hips and then I'll have bigger rose hips.
Okay.
And I just pick them and I wash them real good. And when I've worked on off-grid farms or with other people or volunteered, I find a lot of people don't wash stuff well. So I'm like a fanatic about washing every single thing. So I'll make sure my hips are really washed and really clean, like everything else. And then the bigger ones I'll cut in pieces and put in my dryers. So I just dehydrate them all. I
Awesome.
don't pull anything out or worry about anything. And then, so the smaller I can cut my bigger ones, the better, the easier they dry. And then the smaller ones, I just dry themselves. And then with everything that I use, I won't grind them till I'm putting them in the honey. So I'll try to leave everything as big as I can. That cacao that you had
Hmm.
in the first honey, I'll buy cacao nibs
Hmm.
and I'll grind them and throw them in the honey. And the
Like
maca root,
immediately.
I'll buy chunks of maca, grind them, throw them in the honey. So I believe that that's getting a better nutritional value from them. So I do the same with the rose hips, is I keep them as big as I can and then grind them to a powder and add them to whatever it is that I'm going to do.
Are you buying fresh maca root, or where are you getting the maca root from?
Well, can you believe this? I had a friend who worked for American Airlines for years. It was
Oh,
about
wow.
20 years. When he went to South America, he would bring me the roots back
Hmm,
or bags of chunks of roots, and I used that for years.
that's
I just
awesome.
ran out. He doesn't work there anymore, and I started running out. So I found a couple places that I can buy the chunks of maca root and then the different colors. He would bring me red one time, and one time he brought me black roots, and I was used to the yellow or the whiter roots. So that I had to study and figure out what's going on with maca root and what I want to use and how I want to use it. So I have found one place that I buy the chunks from now.
Yeah, I'm probably misremembering. I remember when I worked at Mountain Reserves, we would sell maca powder. I don't think we sold chunks of maca, but it's possible. Um, Very good. Well, let's check out this last one here. Oh, this, yeah, as you were saying earlier, this is it the blue butterfly pea? Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Here,
So a
I'll hold
friend of
this up.
mine in Australia told me about the blue butterfly pea, and he said in their country it's one of the most nutritious and nutritionally dense plants. He says if you
Hmm.
can get this, and I found it doesn't grow here real easily, but I did buy seeds, and then I found some fresh organic.
Oh yeah,
Isn't
that
that
looks nice.
beautiful?
That's so pretty. So for just if you're just listening on the podcast version, head on over to the YouTube video. You could check out what this beautiful honey looks like. It looks like there might be, is there comb in there too or no?
Very possibly.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I can't
When
wait to try
I
this.
pull my honey from my hives, have you been in hives, beehives at all?
Yes, I have. It's been a long time, but yep, I have.
When most people pull out a frame, they usually will have plastic frames, and then the bees put some wax on the frames and they fill it with honey, and then they spin it and it gets the honey off, but it leaves the comb and also leaves a lot of the pollen on the comb. So when I put frames in my hive, there's no plastic on. So the bees have to start and they start making their own comb.
Hmm,
And then when I pull the frames out, I drop them on trays and then I cut the comb out and I'll bottle the comb and some of the honey is left at the bottom. And depending on how much comb, if there's pollen in the comb, if there's bee bread in the comb, every batch goes in different jars or for different places or purposes. So
very
that's
good.
why I believe too my honey is some of the best honey because I not like I love it and I care about it, but I'm just real meticulous and careful about what I do with it. I'm not growing bees and growing honey to make money. That's doesn't I make some money from it, but that's not my first
Right.
or second purpose of raising bees, or even third probably.
Well, I could tell you love it, and I just got to say thank you so much for sending us all of these beautiful products. Again, well, I want to say, I mean, can they head to your website and purchase these?
Yes, yeah,
Okay,
yeah. I
awesome.
have it posted on my website.
Sweet. BeeHealthy.biz. Again, we'll leave links in the show notes. Um, I was kind of hoping we could go over a couple of the different bee products and if you could kind of speak a little bit about the health properties. So I think it'd be cool to talk about honeycomb, honey, propolis, and bee pollen. Would that be all right with you?
Sure.
Sweet. Well, why don't we start with propolis? First of all, do you make propolis or do the bees make propolis for you?
The bees collect the propolis.
Okay.
Do you know what propolis is?
Yeah, I used to take it on occasion when I worked at Mountain Reserves. We sold the tincture. So yeah, I could still have that it's pretty, I want to say it's resinous, obviously, and then there's almost like an astringency to it, I want to say. It's pretty there's a very distinct flavor to it. But yeah, I remember hearing it might be good for my immune system or something like that. But yeah, I definitely used to take it on a quasi regular basis.
So yeah, and when people smell it or taste it, it's something that you never forget. But what it actually is the bees will collect the resin from trees.
Hmm,
So if I have bees here, I have bees down the road, or I have bees on the mountain or below the mountain. The bees, when they go out, they're collecting this pollen or not pollen, resin from different trees.
Yeah.
And where I'm living at now, there's so many different trees that they're bringing it in. When I was in Arizona, there were only a couple of trees. There was a couple of pine and a couple of juniper that they could get the resin from. Imagine the what myrrh is, or
Mm.
frankincense, that sap that comes off that. That's what propolis is um starts with.
Okay.
So the bees will grab that and they'll collect it and they'll bring it in their house, and they'll, like, they use it like a glue or paste, and they'll paste their lid shut. If they're, I've had, I drill holes in both, in my front and my back of my hives, and I'll put mesh on the back to let it aerate.
Mm.
And when winter's coming, the bees will start packing the propolis on that hole because they don't want that much air coming in. So they use it for all different things. But years ago, beekeepers would scrape this off, and I've been with 19 out of 20 beekeepers still.
Mm.
They'll pop it open and you can hear it crack, and they'll scrape it and they're throwing it, and get through it. I hate this crap, and it's taken me longer to get in the hive and throw this stuff out. And I'm like, stop. I had somebody come do something with my, guy was helping me a couple years ago split up some nasty bees, and so we want to get in there and get out and split these nasty bees up real quick, but he's throwing my propolis out, and I'm like, stop it. And I'm
That's good
like grabbing
stuff.
it and trying to get it. So I'll collect it all year round. So like the honey and everything else, the um where the bees got it from is going to be different in the spring and the summer and the fall. So
Okay.
it might be yellow, it might turn a little greenish. I've had it reddish and blackish and brownish and just all different colors. And I'll save these little bits and pieces in containers in the freezer because that's how it stores to stay the freshest the longest. And then I take it out and I small batch everything to keep the quality up. So I'll put it in a quart container or a half-gallon container, um all different ones. And if I have 5 different packages, I'll take one from every little one, so I'm getting different properties. And then I'll cover it with a real strong cheap alcohol, and it pulls out the properties from the propolis. And then I finish it off with vegetable glycerin and a little
Hmm.
dilution, so every batch is going to be different from where I got it from and the time of year and all those types of things. But they've just, so beekeepers hate this stuff, but they're finding out now. There was a study, maybe I heard about it 15 years ago. I think it was out of the New Mexico beekeepers group, that they wanted to take this propolis and see, like, what is there anything in this that the bees might want it. And their testings after a couple years was that propolis is one of the highest antibacterial substances on the planet. So, you knowing about herbs, like, that pine and different myrrh and frankincense, but beekeepers aren't usually herbalists, sadly. So they didn't know that. So they found out that it's a real high antibacterial substance, and the bees use it for that, not just as a glue. And the more propolis that's in the hives, the higher the antibacterial count is, and the healthier the bees are. So the
Wow.
beekeepers throwing that out, they're actually decreasing the health of their bees.
I love that you said like each batch is a little bit different than the last, and I suspect it's like that for a lot of bee products. Can we talk a little bit about maybe the health benefits of honeycomb, unless you had more to say about the propolis?
I could talk all day about any of
Ah,
it,
I
but
bet
I'll
you
go to
could.
to the honeycomb.
Let's talk about honeycomb.
Okay, so
You've also
again,
sent me that, by the way, in the past, which thank you. I love that stuff. That is great, and I feel like it's becoming a little more in vogue on, like, say, charcuterie boards and stuff like that, which is kind of cool to see. But yeah, what do you have to say about honeycomb?
it's was one of the favorite parts of the hive for me when I started beekeeping, and it's been 15, 16, 17, 18 years ago. When I started beekeeping, I wanted to keep the hive pure and together, thinking, like, if the bees are building it together, it has to have the best for us. So when beekeepers would spin the honey out, that just rubbed me the wrong way.
Hmm.
So my goal was, I'm going to raise bees and sell honeycomb, or have the honeycomb, and along the way studying it too. And most beekeepers and a lot of apitherapists even would say there's really nothing in the comb, it's just a wax, it just holds it. And I refuse to believe that. So over the years, I found out and learned that there's a lot of their good properties. Amino acids, I think, is one of them. And then the when they like herbs and honey, if you have honey in comb, it's increasing the value and the nutritional value of the honey. So why take it out of the comb when we can take the comb and the honey and chew on it and get the benefits? Um, and then in the comb, when beekeepers spin the honey, the bees come in and they'll pack the comb with pollens,
Mm.
and then they'll make some of it into, it's called bee bread. They'll mix some of their own enzymes in with that, and that's what feeds the hive. And then they'll pull the pollen out as they need to make honey with that. But when honey is spun, it's kind of like the outside honey is spun out, and then they put this back in the hive for the bees. And the honey that's spun doesn't get any of the pollens out. And then if it does, then they strain it and then they heat it. So most honey that you're going to get at the end, it isn't really what people think. Oh, I'm getting honey. And you've probably heard this too. I've heard this probably more than anything about honey. Well, I'm going to buy local honey. Well, it
Yep.
doesn't matter if it's local, if they're heating it and they're spinning it and they're feeding them sugar water and they're giving them chemicals. It's like a sweetener versus people that are wanting to raise medicinal honey for our health and well-being.
So are you saying even if you go to, say, a major supermarket and you purchase what's called raw honey, is there value in that? Or is it also likely not as health promoting as, like, say, something you're making?
It's very unlikely that it's going to have half of the value, the nutritional value that mine or smaller beekeepers' honey has in it.
So hence, when you go to the farmer's market, that's where you should probably get your honey, is supporting your
Well, you want to
actual,
ask them questions, and I still do
right.
this myself. I'll say,
Sure.
"Where are your bees?" The first thing I'll say is, "Where are your bees?"
Mm.
And I couldn't believe when I started asking that, people would say, "Well, they're not really my bees.
Oh, they're just
They're
slapping
like,
a
I
label
buy
on
the
it?
honey.
Oh.
Yeah, I just buy the honey in bulk, or um, my friend has them like in South Carolina, and I just buy barrels or whatever." So the first question when I'm at the farmer's
Oh,
market, "Do you
wow.
have bees?"
Yeah.
And if it's a yes, I say, "Where do you have them?" and see if they stutter. Um, where do you
That's a
have them?
great tip.
And then to really throw them off, I'm like, "Well, I'm a beekeeper too. Can I come over and see them?" Well, there you can't really get to them or whatever. If I can get past those questions, then I'll say, "Do you sugar feed your bees?"
Mm.
And I'll hear, "Well, everybody sugar feeds your bees. If you don't sugar feed your bees, you're not going to get much honey to sell."
Mm.
If I get past that, if they don't sugar feed, then do you use chemicals in your hive? Because there are chemicals that people use in their hive different times of the year. And I've had times where I've lost all of my bees, or nearly all of them. I've never ever lost all of them. I've lost a lot of them, and other beekeepers will say, "Yes, because you're not treating." And I say, "Yeah, but I didn't treat for 2 years and I didn't lose any of them, so I don't think that was it." So those are the questions. If you go to a farmer's market or know somebody local, are these your bees, or is this your honey? Where do you have your bees? Um, do you sugar feed your bees? Do you use chemicals in your hive? You usually aren't going to get, if you talk to 20 people, you're not going to get 19 of them. You're not going to get one past that last question, I would guess, based on me traveling the country and talking with, I've traveled the world too. I was in Croatia and Malta in 2018, 2019 to meet with beekeepers and to bring honey back. So I've been all over the place in my international apitherapy group that I'm involved with too. I'll ask everybody all kinds of questions, and you'd be shocked at some of the answers that I get.
There's always more layers to it. Once you think you kind of
Yeah.
are doing a good thing, buying the raw local honey at the supermarket, of course, there's more questions to ask. So thank you for sharing that. I'm definitely going to do that when the farmers market starts back up here in Appleton. So excited to find a good local AP therapist. So awesome. Well, oh, actually, I did have a question about the honeycomb. I know sometimes when I eat it, maybe I'm doing it incorrectly. I don't know how you go about it, but you'll kind of end up with like the waxy substance. Are you swallowing that waxy substance or are you spitting that out?
I usually don't have any left. I just chew it till
Okay, all
it's like,
right.
where did it go?
Yeah,
So
fair enough. All
just keep
right.
chewing it.
All right, cool. Good. Another more good tips from Bella Donna. All right, great. Well, sweet. Why don't we talk about just general health benefits of well, let's talk about bee pollen. That's definitely fascinating. I know it's super nutrient dense, but yeah, if you have anything else to say about the bee pollen.
Yeah, imagine again as an herbalist, like taking the the birth of a tree or a plant and bringing it into, and what bees do is they like when they get it, they like tuck it in, and there's something in bees, and to me when I hear about it or see it, it's like their rib cages, but something can opens up in their chest cavity, and it lets enzymes out, and it like sticks to the pollen,
Wow.
and then they bring that in the hive, so it's not just the pollen that's the pollen, it's the pollen mixed with whatever the bees are, which they've determined, somebody's determined that they're enzymes, so it's like supercharged pollen from being
Hmm.
on the plant, but the pollens have the qualities of the plant. So if it comes from clover, then it's going to have a purifying effect.
Hmm.
If it's in general, which most pollens are, it's going to build the immune system up by providing what it provides. And it provides the clearest, cleanest protein of any substance on the planet,
Wow.
and then the nutritional values of the minerals and the vitamins. And then again, mixing the pollen into honey supercharges both of those. I met a woman in Santa Fe, New Mexico years ago who was an apitherapist. And she told me that I think it was 2 year period after she went to Japan and had an epitherapy class for years, came back to New Mexico, and she started raising bees and said a 2 year period that she was going to eat nothing but bee products. And she
Hmm.
said she ate mostly every single day the honey with pollen in it. Sometimes you get the bee bread in it and making propolis, but she says I didn't live, and she says people were freaking out and saying you're going to lose weight, you're not going to get enough nutrition. She said, and she was like 8, she said, how old do you think I am? I'm like 60, 62. I think she said I'm 80 years old.
That's
So she did that for 2 years to prove to herself and to prove a point that the bees provide everything that the human body needs to survive.
crazy.
And then she said, I just like made it a goal for 2 years, and just like food, so I wanted to go back to eating food again.
Right.
And she says, people thought I'm going to lose weight, I'm not going to be healthy. And she says, mentally and physically, I felt so clear and I felt so good. So
Hmm.
she says, I think you should try that for a couple years.
Do you have a lot of bee pollen in your diet?
Yeah, yeah, I do bee pollen every single day, and it's hard to get because you got to like steal it from the bees,
Right.
because you're either when they're going into the hive, you can put a tray down that drops the pollen so it doesn't go in the hive. Or if I pull frames out of the hive that have pollen or bee bread in it, then I'm taking them from the bees. So I'm just real careful of not taking too much. And I know some small beekeepers like me that I'll like beg. Last year, I have a friend. I said, if I buy you a trap, would you put it in your hive? Like it was like $100 something. I said, I'll buy it for you and give it to you. Would you just give me some pollen so I know I have some good pollen?
Hmm.
So we did that, and then I know a couple other like small beekeepers that I'll buy from, but it's hard to get good pollen. So I have people that like want to buy by the pounds or bags so they can take it every day. And I'm like, there's not really that much. And if you're getting it in that quantity and at a cheaper price, it's probably coming from China or someplace that I wouldn't trust it. So I do sustainably, I guess I would say, take some every single day.
I wasn't originally going to ask about royal jelly, but you were talking about taking the pollen from the bee, and I remember back in the day when I first really got into a lot of health stuff, like trendy health stuff. I remember royal jelly had a phase where it was a fad and everything. Is it ethical to consume royal jelly, or do you have any thoughts on that?
Here are my thoughts on that. Do you know royal jelly is when the bees, and you have one queen in a hive, and she's getting old or she's getting weak, and the bees know instinctively we need to replace her. So they'll make it's like a peanut looking thing off of their comb, and they'll fill it with something that they make only to put in there to raise a queen. And it, however it works, makes a queen into a queen. So it's a little, imagine it's not even as big as a real peanut, and they fill it with this white substance, and it has all kinds of medicinal values. I think most people would say more than anything else in the hive.
Mm.
So you don't want to go in there and pull out that little pod thing. So there are people now that are making racks with fake plastic peanuts, and then they'll take the queen out of the hive. So the bees are like, oh, we don't have a queen, we have to make a queen. So they start making like fake queen cells they build up. And then they'll go in there and they'll dig the jelly out, and they'll get little containers. So if you see a little container at the health food store that's in the refrigerator and it's dated recently, it could be good royal jelly. But I've had people that said, I bought a pint that I ordered online that came in the mail that's royal jelly, and it was only $60.
Okay.
Like, okay, let's break that apart.
Right, right. Interesting.
So it is something, if you're a beekeeper and you want to raise them for yourself, and I think that's what people should be. We should be beekeepers or have somebody in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Somebody's growing apples, somebody's raising bees, and we're trading and living sustainably on a planet that was built that way.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. I was going to say, do you think people with, say a yard should be keeping bees? But really, you kind of answered it there. You don't necessarily think they need to be, well, I'm speaking for you, feel free to correct me, but we don't need to be keeping bees. What we should be doing is at least supporting in our community the local apitherapist.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right on. Well, how about we could move on to the health stuff we wanted to talk about. I know that, but well, we could also talk about do you want to briefly touch on, like, say, the health benefits of just honey in general? Just honey. I guess we kind of did that to some degree already.
Yeah, I can add just something to it quick is if
Sure.
we're just talking about when I just talk about honey, and you can see maybe in the background of me, see there's all different
Mm.
honeys. The biggest
Yep.
thing I tell people when I'm talking about honey is honey can range based on the pollen and the areas from a real light to a real dark honey. And if I have somebody that's looking to, or I test and I find out that they need vitamins, like that they're lacking in vitamins, somebody else might be lacking in minerals, somebody else might be lacking in enzymes or pollen, I'll make them a blend depending on what their particular needs are.
Mm.
And honey, when the lighter honeys, which would be like clover, would be a good example. Lavender is a good example. Those have a lot of vitamin nutrients in them.
Mm.
The darker the honey, the more antioxidants they have in them. So to me, everybody needs antioxidants. But when I mix up like that first honey that you opened, I wouldn't take, and like if somebody reads the ingredients and say, and this is what people say, don't put your ingredients because people will steal them. I'm like, I don't care, whatever it takes to get people healthy. But most people would put some honey in there and then they would add those ingredients. What I do with all my honeys is I'll take a little bit of this honey, a little bit of this honey, some avocado honey, some orange honey, some of my own honey, because then I can get the comb in it. So I'll get 6, 7. I've mixed sometimes 15 different honeys in a gallon to make a batch so that when you're taking that morning boost, I think I called it, you're not just getting honey, you're getting all those different honeys and all those different vitamins, minerals, nutrients, antioxidants. And then you're getting all the nutrients from the cacao, from the maca, you're getting the collagen. So all that stuff is in the program that we mentioned that you ran this morning. The woman talks about herbs and like, let's
Yeah.
get the super concentrated herbs to get the most value from the smallest amount. That's what I always do with my honey too, is how can we like superpower this to make it nutritionally dense and healthy. So again, we can, like, if we had to live on honey, but why not live on the best honey and the best combinations that we can?
Absolutely. And dear listener, what Bella Donna is referring to there was we just released a 3.5 hour video with Bridget Dougherty talking about nourishing herbal infusions. So I'll leave a link to that in the podcast show notes as well. Well, thank you for sharing everything about the various bee products available at BeeHealth.biz. And at your local apitherapist as well. All right, so moving along, I'm signed up to Bella Donna's newsletter, which is awesome. I don't think you have done this until recently, but you recently came out with a series that you called 21 Days of Health Tips, which I really enjoyed reading. And first of all, if you're not signed up on your newsletter, is there a place on your website where folks could go and read these tips?
No, they're not. They can send me an email from my website and I can put them on the list. And usually
Okay.
my newsletters, I'll do maybe one or two a month is all I'll do, maybe just one a month. But
Okay.
something like possessed me the end of
Yeah.
last year. I had just so many questions and they seem like a lot of them are the same. And over the years they're the same too. And in December I'm like, let's do a 21 day, and I don't even know why I picked 21 days, and I picked it for January 21st, and then I found out that that was a special day. But just taking everything that I thought I'd been repeating hundreds of times, and then how can I condense this, how can I make this easy, how can I make it short so people can go in there and learn from it. So that was my another like in 2 minute epiphany. Oh, I'm going to do that.
Yeah,
So
I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really a good way to go about it, and it was very like each email was very digestible and gave you food for thought. So, yeah. So, dear listener, if you want to reach out to Bella Donna on her website or through her email, yeah, just she could forward it to you that way. But I went through and out of the 21, I kind of selected some that I enjoyed each one, but for whatever reason, I chose these like 7 or 8 different tips. So, what we're gonna do is I'm going to bring up these tips to Belladonna, and she could kind of just go, just expound upon them to some degree or another. So, the first one that I chose was day one, and I really love this idea. I actually really live my life like this. So it's called The Importance of Small Steps, and that's again day one. So, can you tell us about the importance of small steps?
yeah, and I chose that because I notice when I'm doing life coaching, health coaching, um, and I do a medical or a health scan. I'm not calling it a medical scan, a health scan. The first thing I hear myself telling people, it's like it can be so overwhelming. Let's draw the ladder here and let's just start right here. Like, don't even think, yeah, but what if I do this, or what, how much is it going to cost? Is it going to be too expensive? What if I'm going on vacation? Stop. We're just going to start like right here. So I find that I'm always going back there. So I thought this is going to be a good place to start for wherever I'm going to go with this.
Yeah, I have a self-care regimen, and I'm very consistent with it. And the reason is because I started with a small amount of to-dos on my self-care list. But then as I noticed as I added more and more to my self-care list, I started skipping certain things. So recently I cut back on a lot of the stuff that I was doing, and that has allowed me to stick to my self-care regimen a lot more. I'm getting 100% every day more and more. So I'm realizing, oh, I added too many steps, too many large steps, and then I became inconsistent. So I just love that, and I like I said, I live my life by these small steps to have success. So, yeah, really, that was a great one to have as day one. So day four, you have the importance of healthy drinking water.
Yeah, which seems so simple, but it's not, because again, I do a health, it's called a health scan, and probably 50% of people have water contaminants.
Hmm.
And I would think, I don't know why, people know that we have water contaminants all over the world and we should filter. But when I say to people, are you filtering your water? Most people say no. So they're drinking the city water, the local water. So I wanted to bring that up as a reminder, like wherever you live, whoever you are, like it's real important where you're getting where your water source is.
Yeah, and I use a website called findaspring.com, and I've been gathering spring water since 2011. And when we moved out to Appleton, I found a beautiful, wonderful spring. It's actually on someone's property, um, but they allow folks to go onto it, which is just a beautiful, wonderful thing that these neighbors have done for us. So I have the fortune of getting spring water, but no matter where you are in the United States, if you want to find spring water, you could go to findaspring.com, and hopefully there's a spring near you.
Yeah, never
So
heard of that.
yeah, definitely check that out, Belladonna. I actually got my mother-in-law drinking spring water because she found a spring next to her. So, yeah, it's just a fabulous service. And they actually a lot of times will post the test results as far as like when people test the water, but of course you could also do the water testing yourself. I trust my particular spring that I go to now because the family has been drinking it for decades now. So, but yeah, it's just a really great service. But also, as you mentioned, filtering water is a great way to go if you're drinking the tap water. So, awesome. So day 5, you had the importance of exercise and movement.
Yeah, another area that I find most people, I guess, don't do, or they do a little bit and they think it's a lot, but the more sedate that I find people are, the more overall health problems they have. They have from varicose veins to lymphatic issues because they're not draining their lymphatic. Um, and then there's some slogan like energy creates energy. Well, the opposite is
Mm,
true. The more you sit still, the more you want to sit still. So I was hoping that that page would just prompt people to think like, oh yeah, I have been sitting around, or it's winter, so that's okay, but maybe I need to start getting a little more active. And then like the small steps too, like whatever you're doing, do a little bit more.
hmm Yeah, great tip. Just out of my own curiosity, is being an apitherapist, is that a strenuous activity in any way?
Being a beekeeper is very strenuous. Yeah, it's a whole lot
Uh,
of work. And I had most bees, when you see bee boxes, they're like this high. And once they're full of honey, they can weigh between 60 and 90 pounds.
oh, wow.
15 years ago, I could handle that and I'd move them around, or I could take some frames out, move them around. And then probably 5, 6 years, it was when I moved, it was 6 years ago. It's like all day long, like going through all those boxes, like I can't keep doing this. So there's a honey box that you can put on top that's smaller and a little bit lighter. So 5 years ago when I moved, I went to all of these shorter boxes. But if you have 10 hives and you're going through 2, 3 boxes each, that's 30 boxes, and some are empty and some are 40 pounds. Yeah, it's extensive. It's just physically and then mentally, and then you're in a suit, and then like you find dead bees, and then you have the emotional issue
Right,
with
right.
with
All the
losing
above.
bees that are that are always so sad. Yeah, it's hard work.
Yeah, it's
So I
helpful to
keep
have. No, go for it.
I over the years have tried and experimented with different boxes and different ways to handle bees and different ways to do things. So I woke up this morning and I'm like, oh, I have an idea. I'm going to try this year.
Yeah, constant puzzle, I'm sure. Yeah, it's helpful to have hobbies that kind of by default help you exercise. I'm thinking of when Amanda was getting into gardening last summer or last spring and summer, she started getting really strong. Plus, you're out there in the sun, getting all the benefits from the sun. So, yeah, definitely helpful. So day 6 is relaxation.
And probably what I meant by that, and I don't know if I said it, but what I was thinking now is mental relaxation.
Mm.
It's so many people that I talk with, like everybody is so stressed, and I have this conversation sometimes on a daily basis with somebody different. Is everybody is like so stressed to the max, where in the past some people are stressed, some people aren't, or through the day, like, or through the week or the month, like, or we're moving or we're getting married or we're getting divorced, so we have these cycles of stress. And right now it's like everybody's like up here and everybody is so stressed, and it's like some days I want to scream like, just chill out, everybody
Yeah.
stop. Everybody on the planet stop, let's all take a breath and let's calm down, and just remind people like, you got to stop during the day. We got to just, if it's a little tiny bit, if it's a reminder like right now today, like just drop the stress down a little level.
Yeah, and yet we continue to consume. I'm guilty of this, caffeinated beverages, energizing beverages, and it's just interesting how that kind of goes hand in hand. I'm like, I feel like I always have to remind myself to cut back on those stimulating beverages. I'm just like, I'm already stressed. Why am I drinking these super caffeinated, coffee and stuff like that?
Yeah.
But
You know what we could try
yeah.
as a test is some of my honeys that are naturally stimulating,
Mm.
that asked people like if you can get off of coffee and maybe substitute like coffee and tea, or just tea, or just, and some of my honeys, I don't have any handy. I'll put in like tubes, like a big toothpaste tube or a 4 ounce tube.
Oh yeah.
And usually it's men that want these, like they're traveling, they're in their car a lot and they forget their honey. I'm like, take this. and
Yeah.
keep it in your car. And then like when you need a boot, when I'm traveling or when I'm hiking, and I swear I've saved people's lives. I've been hiking and people are like passing out or getting
Yeah.
dehydrated or altitude sickness. And I'm like, squirt some of this in your mouth. And it's like they come back to life. And
Yeah.
I think it's a real good substitute for the caffeines, and it's a natural energy. And then plus all the other benefits. So I'm going to write myself a note to send that out to you if you want to experiment on yourself and see if
Yeah,
that would be a way to give
absolutely.
you more natural.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've definitely had a honey high before. I know that much.
Well, a lot of times it's from the sugars that are in the honeys. Like you might be able to imagine how much honey I eat every day, and my
Yeah, yeah.
sugar level has never been out of balance or anything. I never
Well,
feel that sugar high. I when I stick with a good routine, my energy throughout the day is level, and I crash at night and sleep like a log. I tell people tell me
great.
they can't sleep at night. If I have clients who are like, I can't sleep at night, I have trouble. I'm like, come over and follow me around someday and you'll sleep better.
That's great. Well, this one's for Amanda. She loves her baths. So, can you tell us about the benefits of baths? And this was a day 7.
Yeah, I keep waiting for you to say the herb one because one of those days I think
Oh,
was an herb.
yep. That's day
Um,
16, which we'll be getting there. Yep.
okay. A lot of people take showers, and taking a shower, I'm thinking now like you can take a shower, you can take a bath, and it's like drinking coffee or drinking tea.
Hmm.
If you go into a coffee shop, you're like, I want this, I want this, I want this, like hurry up, give it to me, where's my stuff? And you're on that buzz. And the same is to me, my impression is like jumping in the shower, hurry up, rinse off, and get out of the shower versus making a cup of tea, straining your tea, sitting down and drinking your tea, noticing the flavors because all teas can be different if you're into herbal teas. And then taking a bath is like you can go and go and go and drink your coffee all day and go and go, but you get something about like getting in the bath that is calming. Your body is detoxifying. I mentioned some things in there to put in the bath to help
Sure.
detoxify it and just like kind of relax. And then once you're there, then it's not like you can jump up and run out. You have to think about getting up and getting back out. So something as simple as switching baths to showers, even once a week, would makes a difference.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, Amanda's always encouraged me, encouraging me to take a bath just to chill out. And I used to take them all the time. I really do enjoy them, but for whatever reason, I'm caught in this. No, I just want to take a shower. But yeah, that's a
I call
great
it the
tip.
George. I call it the George Jetson mode. Do you know who George Jetson is?
Yeah, the cartoon, right? The
Yeah,
Jetsons. Yeah, totally.
yeah. He
I
used to
used to
get
watch
on
that back in
this.
the day.
He used to get on this rotating thing to take his dog for a walk, and then it would start moving faster, and he just kept walking faster. And then he tried to get off, and he couldn't get off. And there was a
Mm.
time in my life I was like in my 40s, and I kept flashing back to the scene, and I'm like, I'm George Jetson. Like I really
Oh,
do want off of this thing, but I can't get off of it.
do you,
So when I
and
hear
you?
people that were where I was at, I call them George Jetson.
So, do you think at this stage in your life you got off of it?
Oh, I'm definitely off of that.
I could
Yes.
tell. Yeah, absolutely. Well, just a couple more, if you got the time. Day 15 is sleep, which I always think is like potentially the biggest pillar of health. So, what are the benefits of sleep?
Sleep resets your whole clock. It resets your brain. It's each one of those things that on the 21 days, like they're just phenomenal. And if you can incorporate one or two, it will make a difference. If you can get all of those into, and I made it, I think 21 days because I've always heard if you can do something for 21 days,
Hmm.
then you got it down pat.
Yeah. You
So
formed a new habit.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just getting a good night's sleep, and people like can't, and it's not taking melatonin or taking something to make you go to sleep. It's like preparing yourself and getting the exercise and the air and the sunshine during the day and then crashing at night because the body has its natural circadian rhythm. And if you can go with that, like your health is going to be better, your mind's going to be better, your temperament is going to be better. I believe relationships are going to be better.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I definitely am in a much worse mood if I get horrible sleep the night before, and then everybody else pays the price, you know? So yeah, absolutely. Sleep is foundational, 100%. All right, well, let's talk about herbs since this is the herbalist hour. What are the benefits of the herbs?
Well, you know all the benefits. Herbs are
I know
like,
some of them.
second only to bee products for our
Yes.
health. Uh, what I noticed teaching herb classes for decades is when I would be at someone's house or people would be in my programs and I'm talking about herbs, it never seemed to register, like to incorporate into like every day. Like,
Yeah.
oh, when I last time I was here, we put some of this on chicken and then I tried it and it didn't taste the same as yours. Okay, between your class here and your chicken, did you use any herbs or anything to know what they do or to smell the flavors or anything? So that was like every single day, people should be using herbs if they want to have the benefits of improved health. We can put it in our teas, we can drink it during the day, we can sprinkle it on, and I've done classes on this. You can use it for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks and drinks, and keep the herbs incorporated into everything and get the benefits of the antioxidants, the nutritional value, the vitamins, the minerals, the and the program that was on earlier today that you've mentioned, she
Oh
talks
yeah,
about that too. Is like let's like every single day, let's get this nutritional value naturally.
absolutely. Well, I got one more for you, and then I was hoping I could read day 21, which is called The Journey. By the way, did you write that? Was it like a,
No, I didn't. I found that decades ago, and I have read it every single day for years, like right next to my bed.
that's
And
awesome.
it's made a difference in my life. And now in my coaching and in my Reiki classes, I'm like, read this every single day.
That's awesome. I love that. Well, do you happen to know the author?
No,
Okay.
it never did have an author on it when I got it, or I would have kept it on there.
That makes a lot of sense then. Okay, so I'll read day 19 and then I'll read the journey. So day 19 says the importance of the impact of our thoughts.
Yeah, and that's something I talk about with everybody too in coaching, and it's based on Bruce Lipton's. Are you familiar with Dr. Bruce Lipton?
No, it doesn't ring a bell.
Okay, he was a scientist. He had a study back, I believe in the 70s or 80s, that we are our genetics.
Mm,
So whatever our genetics are is what, so if our mother has this, our father has this, if our grandfather has this, we're more prone to alcoholism or to these health things. And he was working on a program to study that. And I think he says in the 80s his funding got cut and it was never proven.
mm,
And then somebody at the university, I think it was Harvard and Yale, found the studies and they said, oh, you are your genetics. So they pulled out his studies and they wrote it as fact. And
mm.
when he started hearing about it, he's like, no, no, that was my study and we've never proven that. And the whole Angelina Jolie had the factors to give her breast cancer, so she had her breast removed. And he's like, no, 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 stop.
Oh,
Like I've never proven that. And then he went back into, I think he moved to Costa Rica and got a grant with a study that had the bigger microscopes or whatever he was using to find that out. And he says going deeper into our DNA, it doesn't stop at the DNA where there are genetic connections. It goes into our epigenetics, so it can go down further. And the changing of our genetics isn't based on the world and our connections, it's based on our epigenetics, which change based on what we believe and we think and we speak to ourselves. So then the studies came out that they like in the speaking to water, when you have you seen the studies like you speak to water and you can make the
yeah,
water change, or you speak to
absolutely.
plants. Well, that came out of his study of the biology of belief is his flagship book,
Mm,
Bruce Lipton. So I was trying to emphasize on that, which I'm always doing with people when they tell them. And I have people that are with their health problems. Well, it's because my mother was, because my father was. And for years I would say, okay, well, then I should be diabetic, 100 pounds overweight,
right.
and close to death. But I'm not. So, like, I don't want to hear the genetic stuff. I don't believe it. It's not been proven. So I try to remind people or introduce them to that thought, even if they've never heard that or thought that. Like, and look at Dr. Bruce Lipton's biology of belief. It's powerful.
Yeah, I've always struggled with like self-love and that kind of thing. So I have been on this habit. It's part of my self-care routine. I actually, when I'm doing like my morning prayers, I always say I love myself. and I try to like genuinely feel it, you know what I mean? I try not to just run through the motions.
Yeah.
I try to repeat it to myself and actually like kind of feel it. I'm getting goosebumps right now just thinking about it. So yeah, I could definitely see that. And I just looked up the quote. I wanted to make sure I attributed it to the right person, but Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "You become what you think about all day long," and I just really love that. So I'm glad that you included that in your health tips because it's very foundational and incredibly important.
The
So here
responses.
Belladonna actually has stats on what who opened the most emails per subject. Is that what this is?
There's all kinds of stats in the newsletters. What I was looking at was which ones do people want to look at, who looked at them. Some of them they can, like on the Bruce Lipton page or the one page about your thoughts, I connect to Bruce Lipton into something else and I can see who and how many clicked on
Right,
those
totally.
things.
Yeah, let's hear
So
the stats.
I kept looking through them, and when it got to the end, I was shocked, and I told my daughter, I said the highest hits were meal planning,
Mm.
which must be, that means it's important to people, and people probably aren't. And then recipes for, there was a page on healthy desserts. We're going to have desserts, so why not make them healthy?
Right.
And then dinners and lunches. So the biggest amount of interest were on recipes and food and eating. And my daughter said, "Yeah, but herbs and honey and bees are important to you, but do you see now that that's not what's most important to most people?"
Right.
And I said, "That's very, very good observation."
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, healthy desserts. I could see how that would definitely be a popular one to click on for sure. Awesome. Well, we'll read day 21, and this is just the journey, which is what we were talking about earlier. So I'll just read it here, and feel free to chime in afterwards if you like to comment on it. So the journey, as you as you journey through life, choose your destinations well, but do not hurry there. You will arrive. You will arrive soon enough. Wander the back roads and forgotten paths, keeping your destination in your heart, like the fixed point of a compass. Seek out new voices, strange sights, and ideas foreign to your own. Such things are riches for the soul. And if, upon arrival, you find that your destination is not exactly as you had dreamed, do not be disappointed. Think of all think of all you would have missed but for the journey there, and know that the true worth of your travels lies not in where you come to be at the journey's end, but in who you come to be along the way.
Yeah, I still love that as if the first time I heard it. Thank
So
you.
cool. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, that was a awesome activity to kind of run through the different health tips for 21 days. Again, dear listener, if you want to see the other ones, read the other ones that Bella Donna has, just feel free to reach out to her via BeeHealth.biz. Well, this has been great, Bella Donna. Thanks for joining us on the Herbalist Hour. Do you have any like closing thoughts or advice or anything you want to impart before we kind of wrap up and get out of here?
No, if I find that I am the winner on the Good Foods Award
Uh,
contest, I'll be contacting you.
Yeah, I would love to hear about it. That would be amazing. And you definitely deserve to win. You have my vote.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Appreciate our time together.
As always, yeah, definitely, Belladonna. Thank you once again. Thanks to you, dear listener. Thanks to Amanda for doing the editing for these herbalist hours, and we'll see you all in the next episode. And that's going to do it for today's episode. Thanks so much for listening to the HerbRally podcast. If you'd like to hear more from us here at HerbRally, we now have a text message community, believe it or not. Basically, it's just updates from us. We send about 1 to 7 texts per week, notifying you about new events, videos, courses, podcasts. You get the idea. It's pretty much like our email newsletter, just in text form. So if you'd like to receive text messages from HerbRally, just text JOIN, that's JOIN, to the number 541-256-2895. Again, that's JOIN to number 541-256-2895. And to stop receiving texts, that's easy too. Just text STOP to the same number. It'll opt you out immediately. Okay, thanks again for listening. Have a great rest of your day.